Common Craft Video, Chapter 9.
From the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution.
The one good thing that came out of the Articles of Confederation was dealing with the Old Northwest. The Old Northwest was south of the Great Lakes, east of the Mississippi River, and northwest of the Ohio River. The Land Ordinance of 1785 provided that the acreage in the Old Northwest be sold, and that the profits would help to pay off the national debt. The acreage was divided into townships, 6 miles squared. These townships were then divided into 36 sections, 1 square mile each. The 16th section of each township was to be sold for the benefit of public schools. This methodical way of settlement contrasted greatly to the way of settlement south of the Ohio River, where fraud and uncertain ownership was rampant. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787 related to the governing of the Old Northwest. Congress decided that there would be a 2-step process for a territory of the Old Northwest to become a state. First, the territory would be submitted and become a part of the federal government. Then, when a territory has 60,000 people or more, it would be admitted as a state with the same privileges as the original 13 members. The ordinance also forbade slavery in the Old Northwest.
There were also many bad things about the Articles of Confederation, as they were weak. First, the colonies refused to pay their taxes to the government, as the government was not able to enforce their laws. The Articles of Confederation gave more power to the states than the government, so the government was not able to control the states. Another problem was that all the states saw each other as separate countries and enemies, rather than as a unified nation. Third, the states also had their own currencies, making trading between states difficult and tedious. Finally, the government was also unable to control the commerce between states, which often led to states having their own laws about taxes and navigation. This slowed down the trading process.
In the mid-1780s, tensions between the states heightened as states levied high taxes on goods passing through them. For example, New York taxed firewood from Connecticut and cabbages from New Jersey. The farmers were losing their land because they could not pay their taxes, as the government had not paid many of their farmers their dues for serving in the Revolutionary War. This incited the uprising known as Shays' Rebellion in western Massachusetts in 1786, which was led by Daniel Shays. The farmers demanded that the state issue paper money, lighten taxes, and suspend property takeovers. After 3 Shayites were killed and 1 wounded, the Massachusetts legislators soon passed debtor relief laws. However, rebellion struck fear into the hearts of the property class, who believed that the revolution had created an insatiable need for liberty. They felt that civic virtue was no longer sufficient to control greed and selfishness.
The rebellion also incited a call for a convention, of which only 9 states attended. In order to save the convention, Alexander Hamilton decided that the states would meet again next year in Philadelphia to repair the Articles of Confederation. On May 25, 1787, 55 delegates convened at Philadelphia, and the sessions were kept completely confidential. Leaders such as George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison, or the father of the Constitution, attended. The delegates were all well-educated and rich white men. There was not a single spokesperson that was from the poor debtor groups. At the convention, all the delegates agreed that they wanted a firm, dignified, and respected government. They also wanted to preserve the Union against the uprisings of mobocracy. Instead of repairing the Articles of Confederation, the delegates decided to completely scrap the Articles of Confederation and create a new government, now known as the Constitution. They all agreed that the government should include checks and balances, 3 branches of government, and that everyone should be represented. The Constitution contained many compromises, one which related to representation in Congress. 2 plans were proposed for the new government. First, the Virginians proposed the Great State Plan, or the Virginia Plan. This plan consisted of a bicameral or 2-house government. The houses would be based on population. The plan would naturally give an advantage to the larger states. Another plan was presented by the state of New Jersey, which favored the small states. The plan consisted of a unicameral or 1-house government in which the houses would be based on equal representation, where each state would get 2 representatives. This plan gave the small states an equal number of votes as the large states. After a prolonged debate, the Great Compromise of the convention was agreed upon. They decided to have a bicameral house. The larger states were taken care of, as the House of Representatives had proportional representation, while the Senate took care of the smaller states, as it had equal representation. The delegates also agreed that all tax bills and revenue measures would originate in the House of Representatives, where population mattered more.
Another compromise had to do with slavery. This compromise was between the North and the South. Southerners wanted the slaves to count for representation in the House of Representatives, but the Northerners argued that in that case, their horses should count for representation. It was finally decided that each slave would count as 3/5 of a person. In other words, for every 5 slaves, 3 would count for representation. It was also decided that Congress would not interfere with the slave trade until the year 1807. In conclusion, the Articles of Confederation had to change as its weaknesses outweighed its strengths. While the creation of the Land Ordinance and the Northwest Ordinance were successful under the Articles of Confederation, the disunity between the states and the inability of government to control its people resulted in the delegates creating the Constitution. They hoped that this new document would prove as an effective replacement to the Articles of Confederation. However, the time had not yet come for celebration, for the people were still unaware of this potentially dramatic change in their government. It was now up to the people to either accept or reject the Constitution.